On this week's Back of the Grid, we've got a debut podium, a big swing in the championship, and lots of penalties that I think we're both going to get very angry about. Hello everyone, welcome to Back of the Grid. I'm Chris, joined as ever by Tom.
Hello.
Here to discuss the Dutch Grand Prix, which was... I don't know if I'd say it was a good race. It was chaotic. A lot happened.
It was, you know, like the pattern the heart rate monitor makes?
Yeah.
That is kind of how the race went. It was like flat for a little while, then there's some kind of high excitement, then some low point, then it went flat again for a while, and then there was something really interesting, something really disappointing, and then it went flat again for a while. It was kind of like, felt a little bit like that to some degree.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends on who you support as well. Like,
also
for Ferrari fans, it was just a flat line throughout.
Yeah. And if you're a Piastri fan,
he's just high the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, massive race for the championship. We were talking last week about the consecutive 1-2 record that we thought McLaren were going to equal. That didn't happen. A very late retirement for Norris. Unclear at the moment if it was a car issue or a power unit issue. A McLaren issue or a Mercedes issue would be another way of saying that. The Mercedes power unit's been far from bulletproof this season, so it wouldn't surprise me to find it came from that side of things, but I'm sure McLaren and Mercedes are both dismantling that to figure out exactly where the problem came from. But I mean, disaster for Lando, huge ramifications for the championship. The previously a 9-point gap, I think, which has now grown to...
If you tell me that points gap, Chris, I'm going to lose it. I had to have F1 TV tell me that points gap about 1 million times after Norris DNF'd. Like, literally every lap, somebody on F1 TV commentary pointed out it was now a 34-point gap. Norris has DNF'd, just in case you didn't know. And what was the other thing they kept repeating? I don't know. There was something else. I've tried to block it out, and you're just giving me flashbacks. But yeah, they really wanted me to know that there was a 34-point gap now. It was like, oh, guys, we get it. Like, I know it's the whole thing for people just tuning in, but you don't need to do it every single lap. It's just annoying at that point. But I guess that shows you the lulls. There was that many laps where nothing was happening. Where they're like, about. Yeah, just a reminder that 4 laps ago this happened, 5 laps ago this happened.
I mean, the other way of looking at that information is that given that McLaren are more often than not getting 1-2s, Lando now needs, I think it's 5 1-2s in his favour in order to close that gap.
I think that was the one. Do you know there's only 9 races remaining?
What?
There's only 9 races left, and it's a 34-point gap now. So yeah, he needs more than half of those 9 remaining races to go in his favour, Chris.
I mean, he effectively needs... There's obviously a lot more to it, but if they do keep scoring 1-2s, he basically needs to win 7 of the remaining 9 races now. Maybe 6, and you throw in a sprint win or 2. I think there's a couple of sprints left this season, but it's a big gap. I don't think it's not championship over. We could go to Monza, a circuit that's very hard on engines, and Piastri's power unit could go pop. Like, there's still a lot of variables.
The only thing with that, though, is they tend to put a completely fresh unit into the car for Monza for that exact reason. So if there's a unit that Piastri's got that has either done 0 mileage or has done very little mileage compared to others, like, everybody's going to be putting that kind of engine in at Monza. So, yeah, it's like you say, it's not championship over by any stretch. I think anyone that thinks it's completely over is being a little over dramatic. But when you think about the point swing and the way it's gone back and forth, it's in terms of the championship gaps, it's got to be the biggest it's been all season, I think.
I think it is, yeah.
At this point. So it's a big step in Piastri's favour, let's put it that way. And it's put, like you say, with 9 races left, it's put Lando needing at least 5, if not 6 of them, just to overturn that deficit in terms of the 1-2 finishes. I mean, he might get lucky in some way, and Piastri have an unfortunate spell, and it brings it back closer. But Norris can do nothing except win these remaining races now. That's just the position he's found himself in. I will say one thing, slightly positive about Norris in that whole situation was a lot of the times in the past when things like this happen, he's very downbeat and sort of quite negative about it emotionally to some degree. Yes, it's a very disappointing scenario for him to find himself in, but I think generally from what I saw of post-race interviews and so on, he seemed pretty, pretty sort of neutral about it. Let's say, he knows it's a blow, but he knows it's not insurmountable. He didn't seem to be sort of overwhelming himself with negativity. So I think there's a decent chance he can at least close the gap a little bit and maybe mount the fight. Whether those mid-season predictions of him leading the title for 3 races or more, I think they're already gone.
They're in tatters.
Yeah.
In many ways, I almost feel like this situation's going to kind of suit him. It's obviously not what he would want, but I think the pressure's almost off him now. The gap is so big, it's not like they're fighting tooth and nail for every point because there's a tiny gap between them. At this point, he's just got to go out there and win races. There's no, the gap's gone up by this much and down by this much. He's just got to go and win races. And I think there might be almost a pressure release there that might suit him and might help him for this.
Sort of becomes the underdog of the two of them at this point. And I think the thing that'll work more in Piastri's favour, though, other than obviously the points lead, I mean from a racecraft perspective, is you're possibly at times going to get that slightly desperate Norris that we saw in Canada now.
Yeah.
I think there's more chance of that happening again and Norris losing even more points because he's in a situation where he is maybe marginally faster than Oscar and becomes a little desperate to get past and something happens. So I think there's more chance of that happening again. I think there's less chance of Oscar making one of those mistakes. I know we've obviously, in the lead up to the summer break, we saw 1 or 2 situations where he was pushing really hard to get past Norris and in Budapest, going locked up into turn 1. Saw that a few times. I think there'll be definitely a lot less of that from Oscar for the remaining races because if he's finishing second behind Norris, it's only making a small mark in that gap, especially if Oscar wins more races in the meantime. It's not like he's taking a huge dent out of that lead if he finishes 1-2 with Norris on top. So I think
he doesn't need to take it as he does definitely take as many risks going forward now, which is going to help him. I mean, it's disappointing. As a kind of just fan of the sport, with just fairly neutral in this championship, we want to see it go down to the wire. Seeing the gap grow like that, and because of something out of the driver's hands, is a real shame.
I think that'll always be the bigger downside. It's not necessarily that Norris has dropped a race win. It's more that it's an unfortunate thing where in this era that the cars are pretty reliable and we don't see many failures, that a failure's happened to one of these 2 front-running cars. And I think it would have been a shame no matter which way it was. It's not like it's, oh no, this is bad for Norris. Either way. And just because I still hear people talk about things like, in 2016, Hamilton had this failure and he'd have beat Rosberg if it wasn't for it. And people still talk about that, and it's nearly 10 years ago. There's every chance that if Norris has a good run for the rest of the season and closes that gap down and it's 25 points or less, that people are going to be saying, oh, well, if it wasn't for this DNF, Norris would have won the title. It's
Exactly.
I don't want a title being remembered for that. Like it annoys me that Rosberg's title is remembered like that.
Yeah, because it devalues the person who did win it.
Yeah.
Like this is completely out of both of those drivers' hands. It's just one of the things that can happen in motorsport. It's part of the game. And it is very reminiscent of that Malaysia retirement in 2016 that Hamilton had, but like it's just how the game goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Which I guess, going back to your original point, is probably why Lando seemed so kind of calm about it, because it's not like he's binned it. He's not made a mistake. He's not done something silly.
And
it's just completely out of his hands.
I'm not saying he would have ended up winning the race, but he was that marginal bit quicker in that stint when he had the issue. Like he was starting to eat into the gap to close Oscar down. Not saying he could have got past. It's a difficult circuit to pass, especially when they're in such close machinery, being teammates. But I think he's doing a much better job than previously of ignoring the negatives he can't control and taking away the positives he can control. That demeanor, and I mean, we've talked about it a few times over the last month or two. Not saying he has, but it feels like he might have worked with a sports psychologist or somebody of that nature to shift that. Either that or he's had a self-realization, but there definitely feels like a mental shift from Lando between adversity and things not going his way earlier in the season or in previous years compared to right now.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, that's just speculation from me at this point. I have no concrete evidence on any of that.
As a result of that retirement, though, it did mean we got a first F1 podium for one Isaac Hadjar, becoming the 5th youngest podium finisher of all time. Quick pop quiz. Do you know who the 4 younger ones are? Putting you on the spot there.
Verstappen, Vettel.
Nope. Vettel is 6th behind Hadjar.
Oh, how old's Hadjar?
Hadjar is 20 and 11 months. Vettel was 21 and 2 months. So it's only 3 months.
Okay, I might struggle with this then.
I'll give you a clue. They're all on the grid still.
Oh, jeez. Hamilton? No, Hamilton was way too old.
No.
They're all on the
You say way too old. He was 22.
Yeah, but way too old for this.
Ancient by everyone's standards.
Alonso, because he was around a little bit first, but I don't think he had podiums early enough.
No, he was 21.
I don't know. Who else? Bottas?
Nope.
He's not on the grid yet, is he? Oh, Antonelli.
Antonelli this season, he's the 3rd
I'm
youngest.
I'm trying to think too far back. I'm not thinking like as current as that.
Lando
Stroll?
is the 4th
Lance
youngest.
Stroll?
And and Stroll's the 2nd youngest ever.
Oh, that makes
Baku 2017.
That makes me feel ill to know that he's in that list.
I know. Anyway, obviously he benefited from Norris's retirement. That's why he was on the podium. But he put himself in the position to be the one to benefit from that. With
100%.
an amazing lap in qualifying to take P4 on the grid, and then to hold that P4 for the entire race distance. He had alternating Leclerc and Russell like breathing down his neck, and just held them all off. It was such a good drive from him.
Yeah, it was a drive of the day drive before he was even on the podium.
100%.
Generally speaking. So I think, I mean, there's not much more else I can say about it. Like it was a really, really good drive. And I'm glad because we talked about it in the preview and he was in a position where he'd started out the season, like the first third of the season, with some very strong results. He then dropped away a little bit in recent races going into the summer break. And it was kind of like, can he come back from the mid-season break, if you want to call it that, and start performing again? Like the pressure was kind of on in that sense. He'd had a bit of a bad run. So to do it like this just goes to show. And like you say, he was 4th on merit there. Like,
absolutely.
You can look at some of the results from this weekend's race and you can kind of say, oh, well, they're there because the Ferrari's DNF'd and because Lando DNF'd. And like, there's one or two a bit further down in the points that were still very good drives, but they've benefited like 3 positions out of those DNFs. Hadjar was ahead of 2 of those on merit. So it was a 4th place finish until Lando DNF, like genuinely on merit. And there were times where it looked like he could have potentially given Max a little bit of a run for his money. I think once, I'm not saying he definitely would have, but I think once Lando retired and it was right, we're in 3rd now, we don't have to fight for it, let's bring it home. I think maybe there was an element of not pushing Max for anything more because there's just no need. But even still, like, there were literally points at the race where on commentary they're talking about, do the big sister team let the little sister team through? Like, does Max get the call to move over for Isaac for a podium? Like, no, it's not happening. I think it was all very tongue in cheek that they were saying this, but it's good to see Isaac get a good result like that. I think he's one of those podiums, which like Hulkenberg's, like, you'd be hard pushed to find somebody that's not happy about Isaac getting that podium.
Oh yeah,
I'm very hard pushed, I think.
Yeah, everyone was like, I'm just so happy for him. He seems like such a genuine, nice guy as well. And I saw someone over the weekend say, you won't find another driver just as happy to be in F1 as Isaac Hadjar. Like, he clearly loves the sport and lives for it, and he's worked hard to be there. And so happy to see him getting this success. And it's impressive because, like, obviously Antonelli had a bit of a shocker of a weekend, which we will get to. Toto Wolff's always quick to say he's a rookie, he's going to make these mistakes. And I completely agree with that. Like, I don't think a lot of rookies get given enough time to make mistakes and grow from them these days. However, you've got someone like Hadjar in his 15th ever F1 race, and he's just not making the mistakes we've seen from most of the other rookies. Like, he had a awful start with what happened in Melbourne, but there were so many opportunities in this Grand Prix this weekend for mistakes to be made, and he was rock solid through all of it. So impressive.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember if we've said this like kind of word for word, but Hadjar's consistency and composure is paying dividends over Antonelli's raw speed. I think Antonelli's got more raw speed than Hadjar, generally speaking, but he's his own worst enemy, to be honest, Antonelli. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But I think that's the difference. And when you're in a sport like this, in the situation that these guys are in, the consistency is what keeps you around and keeps you earning points. Like, you only have to look at the older names in the grid that have been around a long time. The reason that they've been around is not that they're multiple race winners, not that they're like, best in equal machinery drivers even. It's that they're extremely reliable and extremely consistent, and teams can work with that, and they will take advantage of an opportunity when one comes along. Isaac's showing he can potentially do that. So I hope that he is able to go into next season doing the same and like continuing that on.
Speaking of next season,
well,
obviously the Red Bull driver situation is very interesting. Is this going to earn him the reward of a demotion to Red Bull?
Well, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's out of context or in context, but there is literally a clip floating around of Max saying something to Isaac on the way to the grid along the lines of it's better this way or something. I can't remember exactly what it is.
It was something like that. So, wasn't it?
But because of the way that what Max is saying is worded, it could quite easily be, stay where you are, mate. You're doing a really good job, and I don't want you in a car next to me in case like it goes bad for one or either of us. But I think it's more of it could be anything, but because of the context of who the two people who are speaking, it's given this potentially false context. It could have been very bluntly saying, you're better in that car, stay in it. But
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have to look at Yuki. Although, I mean, again, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but Yuki's
Yeah, I mean, we can mention
had an
him,
all right
like,
performance.
all right, yeah. Like, he sort of said coming into this last sort of stretch of the season that he knows in order to keep his seat, he needs to be scoring points on a regular basis. So, like, from that measure alone, he's done that. Did he? He didn't make Q3, did he? I don't think he went out in Q2, if I remember rightly. But he made his way into the points.
Yeah, it was 12th on the grid.
Yeah, he probably could have been higher, but he pitted a couple of laps before the first safety car, so that cost him a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a little bit of a fortuitous points position, maybe because of the fact that Hamilton, Leclerc, and Norris all ahead of him retired. Technically, wouldn't have been in the points without that, but
yeah, and the Antonelli penalty as well.
and the
I think
Antonelli
dropped
penalty,
him
yeah,
behind. Yeah,
yeah. I
where
mean,
did Antonelli actually finish in the end?
pretty much last because of the
Oh yeah,
the
he's right down there.
closeness of the safety car restart and everything. So, yeah.
Actually, he still ended up ahead of Gasly, which probably says more about the state of the Alpine than anything else. But
Yeah.
right, so let's talk about Ferrari. There's so much to cover here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a disaster. Like a double DNF, no point. I think it's the first time this season they've had neither car make the finish.
Yeah.
The second time they've had no points because they got that disqualification. I mean, on Hamilton's side, that was a pretty kind of uncharacteristic error from him. You don't tend to see Hamilton making mistakes like that. To me, that was a guy trying to wrestle a difficult car around as fast as he could, and that coupled with the bit of rain that came down kind of was enough to have him go off. But yeah, slightly surprising to see him make that sort of mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, uncharacteristic, but unfortunately, it's a bit of a driver error as well. Like
It is,
he wasn't necessarily in a position that was awful for him or the team, and like you say, maybe overdriving the car, getting out on that painted advertising that's on the top of the tarmac on turn 3. It's a little bit wet. I mean, I don't know what sort of paint that's done with, but things like the white lines on the circuit are slippery enough, and they're painted with grit of some kind in them to try and stop them being. I don't know whether the advertising is paint is mixed in a similar fashion, but maybe not because they're not intending for cars to be out there, generally speaking. So can't comment either way. But yeah, uncharacteristic, but also avoidable. I think.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the big thing, isn't it? It's avoidable, and it won't do his previous lack of confidence in himself any good. I don't think that.
No. And then obviously we had Leclerc being taken out by Antonelli, which we'll discuss later on. It's a shame because there were a lot of positives to take away from this weekend for Ferrari. Like on Friday, they were nowhere. Like they were, I think 1.7 off the pace in FP1.
Yeah.
They had a massively compromised setup because they were having to run the ride height really high to avoid bottoming out in the high speed corners, which is a problem they've had all season. Then overnight, they completely reconfigured the cars, found a way to run them lower without the bottom out problem. And they got themselves right back on pace with kind of Mercedes, Aston Martin, not quite as fast as Max, but kind of up there.
Yeah.
So there were like a lot of positives at that point in terms of how they transformed the car and, the driver feedback, working engineers and stuff. But man, just fell apart from after that. I mean, Leclerc actually looked like there was a good chance he was going to undercut Hadjar around the first pit stops. But unfortunately, it was his own teammate crashing that ruined that for him, which is...
Well, yeah, he literally just pitted, and then the thing with Hamilton happened, and the safety car came out, and everybody else got a discounted, virtually free pit stop against him. So
discount pit stop, I like that. Then we had his fight with George Russell, in which there was contact and a lot of gravel kicked up. So it was investigated.
Mm-hmm.
Then they decided they were going to look at it after the race. However, during the race, Leclerc had that lap deleted for track limits, specifically.
They don't know this.
Yeah, specifically because he cut the corner at the corner he passed Russell on. After the race, an FIA document is published that shows all of the lap times and all the deleted laps. That deleted lap was included on there, which at this point is sounding like a slam dunk penalty if he's had the lap deleted for cutting the corner.
Yeah.
Then the stewards called in both drivers to speak to them. They said both drivers felt it was a racing incident and there should be no further consequence. And we reviewed the evidence and arrived at the same conclusion.
Okay.
They also said we reviewed the track limits, which is a weird thing for them to do because the document's already been published to say he broke the track limits. And the steward said that the evidence there was inconclusive. So, like, he did cut the corner, but also he didn't cut the corner. And, yeah, one of lots of very odd decisions that were made by the stewards this weekend.
Which means that if he didn't actually cut the corner, I mean, I've not seen enough angles to say for sure if he has or not. If I'm totally honest with you, I've not watched it back enough times to go into that. But if they're saying that they're not penalising him and the track limits weren't an issue, therefore they're not penalising him, both drivers are happy to consider the contact racing incident style contact, which I think the level of contact and stuff is that bit of it's probably about right. I think the questionable bit of it all for me was, did he or did he not cross the white line completely in order to make the pass work?
Yeah.
If they've deleted his lap time for crossing the white line completely, but then come back and said, well, actually, no, he didn't cross the white line completely, we're fine with it. That means that had he been given a penalty in the race for crossing the white line completely, it would have been a wrong penalty. Like, yeah, it's such a contradictory outcome.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I think he's got very lucky to get away with that, to be honest. I think he potentially cut the corner to make the pass. He threw himself in and made contact. I think I'm surprised that Russell also was of the opinion that it was a racing incident, because during the race, Russell was livid. I mean, well, Russell gets livid about a lot of things during races.
Yeah,
but
he does, but also he was like questioning it more than outright saying this is a penalty. Like, if I remember right, the team radio was along the lines of, surely he was off the track there, was he not?
Yeah,
or something to that effect. Which means in the moment he thinks he could well be, as a lot of us did. But I mean, maybe there's something that he's seen in the replay and he's looking at it like going, do you know what, fair play. If I had that gap, I'd have also gone for it. And he's gone out of the race anyway later on with an incident, thanks to my teammate who's avenged me. It's not worth pursuing, just leave it.
That's true. But Russell did end up fourth in the end, which is where he was before that pass.
Do we find that this is just another case of policing the outcome? Leclerc's got out of the race anyway. Yeah. Russell's re-inherited fourth place because of it. Are they just policing the outcome again and not penalising Leclerc because he's gone out of the race later anyway and justice has served itself, quote unquote?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Because there's definitely an element of time where Leclerc could well be over the line. Like, I am trying to look at some slow-mo of it, but annoyingly the angles are never quite there. So, like, there's a point where definitely the front two wheels and the rear left are over the white line. But at that point, you can't quite see the right rear to see if that's over the line or not. And then when you get the angle from the other side, where the right rear has definitely crossed the white line, the front right is back over it. So there's that very brief moment in the middle where you don't get the right angle and it's impossible. So maybe as well, things like this in, I don't know, I'm going to use like a American football and NFL analogy. and I think it applies here as well, to be fair, in Formula One sometimes, but if there isn't enough in the replay to overturn the decision on track or on the field, in the case of NFL, the original judgment stands. So if the original judgment is we're letting that go and we'll look at it afterwards, and then in video replay there's not enough to absolutely concrete say you were definitely across the line, they maybe have to go hands up. It has to go down as a racing incident. And it feels similar to if something looks like a touchdown, is ruled a touchdown, but then there's nothing conclusive that says the knee was down half a yard short or something like that in the NFL, the touchdown stands.
Yeah, which makes sense as to why they've said it's inconclusive. But then that
deleting
then leaves
the
us with a
laps.
situation where,
the...
during the race, they were confident enough to say, oh, yeah, he's cut the corner, we delete the lap. So as things currently stand, he both did and didn't cut that corner.
So in that scenario, that's the other way around, right? Because that's them saying he has cut the corner, his laps have been deleted. And then in video replay, there is not enough conclusive evidence to show that he did stay on the circuit.
Yeah.
Therefore,
so it's like
the decision has to remain that he cut the corner.
Yeah.
It just feels very FIA, very messy.
It does.
And it's a shame because instead of talking about some potentially great wheel-to-wheel racing and some elbows out from both of them to defend position and fight for position on a track that is notoriously difficult to overtake on, we're talking about what have the stewards done right or wrong this week. Which is a shame.
Back there again.
Yeah.
Quick word on Antonelli. Very messy weekend for him. He beached it in the gravel on Friday. Went out in Q2. And to be fair, he did make good progress in the race. He climbed his way back up to 6th, but then just tried to overtake Leclerc in a way that was never going to happen. I mean, it was see what he was trying to do, but he just took way too much speed in and understeered into him, basically, didn't he?
Yeah, it was rookie. Is the only way to describe it. I mean, he is a rookie, but it was rookie. Somehow finished the race, though. I mean, he didn't get as much damage, I suppose. He was just a puncture on the front right, wasn't it? Or well,
yeah, it was a well executed pit maneuver.
Sign him up for the police force.
Yeah, so he got a 10-second penalty for that, and then he got another 5-second penalty for pit lane speeding.
Out of interest, sorry, just to jump back to the earlier incident with Leclerc, remind me exactly what the rule is for front wheels and alongside and being given space on the outside, all that.
Oh, I can never remember the
Is it not that
the
front wheel must be alongside the side pod or something? Like you must be like at least halfway along way
in line with the mirrors. I think it is.
I'm just watching back a replay and seeing if Leclerc was that far alongside on the outside because he gets that far alongside, but that's like by the inside of the next corner. So yeah, I'm just clutching at Ferrari straws right
now. Who's next to mention? Williams. Albon, really annoyed after qualifying because he went out in Q2. Basically, the team put him out in the pit lane at a point where he had to queue for ages, which completely messed up his tyre preparation plans. However, he gained 5 places at the start and then another 5 through the race. Admittedly, 3 people ahead of him were eliminated, but even so, finished 5th from 12th on the grid, which ordinarily would be a driver of the day performance, I think, but we all know it's not going to.
Yeah, not this week.
But good drive from Albon.
Yeah.
Right, Carlos Sainz. First Q3 appearance since Imola, which is going a long way back. One of the few times this season he's out-qualified Albon. Looking really good. He was looking good for 5th place for the entire first phase of that race.
Strong from
really
Carlos.
Strong. Probably one of, if not the best performance he's put in this season, actually, I think, up until that point.
Yeah.
Until he had his coming together with Liam Lawson, which meant he had to pit for a new nose cone and new tyres. And then was penalised for it. Given a 10-second penalty. I mean, he was livid both before and after the race. He after the race, I saw him saying he wanted to go and speak to the stewards about it, but apparently
he said it during the race. He was saying
yeah,
on the radio, like, book me in to see the stewards after the race. I need to talk to them.
Yeah, and it didn't happen, at least until the point I finished watching. Like the stewards still hadn't found time to speak to him, I guess, because they were faffing around with other decisions.
They were a bit too busy trying to decide if Leclerc was in or out of the track.
Yeah. So their justification for this penalty was the front axle of car 55, Carlos Sainz, was not ahead of the front axle of Liam Lawson at the apex of turn one. Sainz attempted to stay on the outside of Lawson and a collision occurred. We considered that Lawson had the right to the corner and therefore Sainz was wholly or predominantly to blame for the collision. Just for context, Sainz was given the same penalty for that as Antonelli got for punting Leclerc into the wall. And it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you begin? To anybody watching, I would say I would probably put that down as a racing incident. I think Sainz could have left more room for Lawson, but he chose not to. Lawson seemed to assume the room was going to be left for him and drove into a space that had a car in it. If I was going to apportion blame anywhere, it was probably more on Lawson than it was on Sainz.
Definitely.
Is how I read that.
Definitely. Like, I'm definitely going to come off as, like, this Carlos Sainz fanboy that I am, and I don't care. But at the point that Lawson aggressively dives to cover the inside when Carlos has a look at it, at that point, game on for the corner, in my opinion. He's given Carlos the outside line, and then to just blatantly oversteer himself out wide and cock it up essentially, and then the other guy get a penalty for it. Like there's even a moment where Carlos sort of backs out of the corner a little bit because he can see Lawson struggling to stay on the inside, and Carlos like kind of opens the wheel out a bit to give him more room, and the guy still clatters into him. Like the big difference for me, I guess, in this as well, and the reason that I'm very much on Carlos's side and think it's a stupid penalty is, no disrespect to Liam Lawson, he's probably a much, much, much better driver than me. But how many times this season has he been involved in incidents like this?
Yeah,
it's commonplace
kind of
for
he gets
him.
Involved in.
And how many times over the years have you seen Carlos Sainz get involved in? I'm not saying he's squeaky clean, but Lawson's probably done something like this more times this season than Carlos has his entire career. Like, I think it needs to be, at most, it needs to be a racing incident. And if anything, there's part of me that genuinely wanted Lawson to be getting a penalty for that with the way he drifted out wide into Carlos. I think had it been somebody who's a more significant perpetrator in the past, like Magnussen gets the penalty on the inside for drifting wide and clattering into Carlos. And I looked up the rule about the wheels because of what you were quoting there that the steward said. From what I can see from doing a quick look up, when it's a car attacking around the outside, they do have to get their the axles level by the apex, which admittedly Carlos doesn't do. But I think this is a very prime example of how that rule is stupidly written. Because Carlos is doing nothing wrong in what he's done there. He's given plenty of room to Lawson. He's been hit and essentially taken out of the race, more or less. And it's all justified on, well, his front axle wasn't alongside Lawson's front axle, so it's always Lawson's corner. And it just feels like a stupidly written rule. I mean, it works both ways, like, because I mean, we've defended Max before for the point of Max plays that rule to the T. He will brake literally all it would have taken is for Carlos to brake ridiculously late, far too late than he needed to, and just sling it around the outside. Yeah. And as long as his axles were level, he'd have been the one off into the sunset, and Lawson's one with a penalty. And Max has played that rule through the years perfectly. But I think that it's a rule that is almost literally there because Max loves to throw it down the outside and take advantage of the rule. And I don't know, it feels like there's too much, like, there's not enough common sense applied to the scenario. There's too much, well, it says this, and that's what we're going to do, not looking at what actually happened on the track. There.
Absolutely, yeah.
Carlos Sainz defense rant over.
It's just, it's following these rules to the absolute letter and not looking at the context. And these rules are terrible. These racing rules are awful. Like, basically, the rules say it almost makes overtaking around the outside impossible. I mean, we had drivers this race prove that that's not strictly true. But if someone tries to overtake around the outside and they don't get fully alongside you by the apex, you are then allowed to drive them off the road, is basically what these rules say. And it's ridiculous. Like, if you have got your car in, it's different when you're going up the inside because a car has got to turn in at some point. If you sling yourself in last second and appear on their inside as they're trying to turn into a corner, fair enough, you can't do that. But if you're going around the outside of someone, they are already turning around the corner and you've got yourself partially alongside them, surely you've earned the right to be there and to have some space and not get driven into or off the road. This is one of the worst stewarding decisions I remember in years.
And I think, again, it's all about context, right? This rule applies more to circuits where there's not room for those two cars to go side by side. Now, Zandvoort is not a massive circuit, I agree. However, there's plenty of room for Lawson to leave Sainz space. And although part of the rule is more on the attacker to remain in control of their vehicle, surely the defender should be put to the same standard of you must remain, like, because that just means you could just like let go of the wheel to defend the corner. It's like, well, he went around the outside, so I just let go of the wheel and let it happen because it's on him to keep control of his car and make the move safe, not me. Like, that's how absurd the way the rule. Like, I don't know. Tom in chat saying we should have an interesting hot take on this. That thanks for applying the rules exactly as they are written, stewards, for once. But now it's also highlighted the absurdity of the way the rule is written, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of makes a point. Like, the rules are terrible. They are just terrible. I really, really dislike the way side-by-side racing is done these days. And this is a prime example of it. And like, Sainz is obviously going to want to talk about this. And Sainz now is in his position as a GPDA director, so he's going to know, he knows these rules inside and out, as all the drivers do, but like, in that position as a representative of the drivers, he's going to want to go and like clarify what they can and can't do, because it's just silly. It's just really silly. It's anti-racing is what it is. There's a set of rules about how you go racing that seem designed to stop good racing happening.
Well, I mean, they wonder why certain races, certain circuits get processional. Yes, there's an element of cars not suiting the circuits anymore. But, I mean, was it turn one this? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Look at then later in the race, it was Antonelli and Albon, I want to say.
Yeah.
And, I know the scenario is slightly different in the sense that it's not the outside guy that's overtaking, but they're showing that if both drivers are considerate of each other, you can go wheel to wheel through that corner. It was Antonelli dove to the inside for that one, and basically took the roles were sort of reversed in a way in terms of who was overtaking the other, but it showed that there was room for both cars to make it through that corner. And although Albon was the one being overtaken on the outside, like whilst he was on the outside and being overtaken on the inside, Antonelli left enough room for Albon to essentially back out of the corner safely and let him have it and for them both to continue on, right? Lawson should be able to shut the door on Sainz and give him enough room to back out of it and concede, I can't get around the outside, the move is not done, without clattering into him. That's better good driving standards or whatever. He's like, you can't just hit somebody and go, oh, well, he was coming from behind, therefore it's his fault. That's not quite how it works.
Like I'm looking at Norris passing Verstappen early in the race, and like Norris does get way further alongside him, and he is properly wheel to wheel by about halfway around the corner. But even then, all these rules talk about by the apex. They don't apex at that corner because it's a banked corner.
Yeah.
They stay high. So what even is the apex? Like, yeah, it's a really
again, that's Max respecting the other driver and letting him have fair space to go around the outside when he's up. And like you say, yeah, there's an argument that Norris is generally a little bit further alongside, but I would say in the braking zone, Norris is about the same place to Verstappen as Sainz was to Lawson. It's more just that Norris is a little more able to execute that, like, lift off the brake to sort of throw it around the outside and let the car... Because there is a bit with that one, there's a little bit of a momentum gain from Norris because he's able to let the brake go a little earlier and chuck it around the outside. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a stupid penalty. We've debated probably the weirdest point of the entire race. Everyone coming into this episode is going to be like, oh, they're going to have so much to say about Norris's DNF. Oh, they're going to have so much to say about Hamilton hitting the wall. It's like, no, justice for Carlos. That's why we're here this week.
That's what we're here for.
Justice for Carlos.
We do have to mention as well, because we kind of glossed over him earlier, Verstappen's save/overtake on lap 1 was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how many times you watch it, I'm still like, oh, he's definitely going off. Like, there's no way he's going to save this.
Watching it live in that first moment, because obviously how close him and Lando were going into that corner, in a split second, I thought Norris had tagged his rear wheel and it spun him out. Because I thought the sand at first was like sparks from instant deflation of the tyre and the car dragging. That's what I thought it was at first. I was like, oh no, this is not like, that's not how you want to see it. But then after seeing it a second time, I was like, oh no, that was sand, and Max nearly launched his car into a wall because of sand.
Watching his hands from the onboard, like the reaction to, unbelievable.
We know that he is possibly the best person all time at saving a car. I genuinely, like, there's been people who have saved cars well before. I genuinely think Max Verstappen is the best of all time of anyone I've ever seen at rescuing a car from a situation like that. Like, I mean, even in the scenarios where he does go around 180 or 360 or something like that in the rain, like, he has this weird deft hand. Like, you say look at his hands in the onboard, but from what I remember, it was all still very smooth. There was no, like, he loses the car and there's just a very smooth counter steer to catch it, and then a smooth counter steer back, and then it is
very deliberate.
Oh, I'm in awe of that car control. That is like I say, I would genuinely put it down as the best person I have ever seen in a car at saving those situations and having that level of car control. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it better.
I'm going to take us on a brief tangent here, but you've reminded me of something I read recently, which was that numerous people, Ross Brawn and Eddie Irvine included, said that Michael Schumacher's reaction time was extremely average. He was nothing special at all. He, like Ross Brawn said, his reaction time was about the same as mine, but Schumacher's skill was almost predicting what the car is going to do before it's even happened. If you asked him to react to something in an instant, nothing special, but he could, from the feel of a car, know what it's going to do and be able to predict what he was going to need to do, which I find really interesting.
And I think that's the level that Verstappen is definitely on. He can almost tell what that car is about to do before it does it, which is why those steering motions look so smooth and so deliberate in terms of saving the car.
Yeah, rather than just like snapping, trying to...
I mean, remember the time Verstappen spun it, or almost spun it, technically, at Interlagos in the rain? And
when it was like 90 degrees to the
yeah,
track.
and he was sliding sideways. And he even said afterwards, and he said in interviews about it since, like, there was a moment where he could feel the car was about to bite, and in that moment he went the other way and put his foot back down, and he took advantage of that, and it was like a sixth sense to know that it was about to do it. What I will say about Michael Schumacher's reactions being average at best is Spa 1998.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Right, last couple of people to mention because we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Ollie Behrman started from the pit lane after a pretty ropey qualifying. He ran a 54-lap opening stint on the hards he started the race on.
Yeah.
Pitted finally under the last safety car. Then on his fresh tyres, he passed Albon, Bortoleto and Gasly in the closing stages. 8th on the road, which became 6th. He climbed to 8th, then he gained a place through Norris and then another place to answer his penalties to finish 6th. Super impressive for him, especially when him and Ocon ran more or less together for most of the race. They did exactly the same strategy, and yet Ocon, he finished 10th, I think. Yeah, 10th. Yeah. So like Behrman did a much better job of executing that. Very impressive drive from him.
Yeah, and points a long time coming.
Yeah, it's been a big old gap for him.
Like, he's been so close so many times. We talked about it a little bit at one point, I think, like a lot of 11ths and 10ths, and we're talking about like the consistency of him. A lot of 11ths and not quite 10ths is what I meant there. And we talked about that consistency of being that close to the points and just never quite having it fall his way to maybe pick him up. And whereas Ocon had been more serious peaks, but also worse lows, and being a little bit up and down, it's nice to see Ollie Behrman get a result, I think, that reflects that he's been pretty solid and consistent up to now.
And then the last driver I'll mention is Lance Stroll, who had an abysmal first 2 days of the weekend, crashed on both Friday and Saturday, left him 19th on the grid. He kind of did the opposite to Haas. He pitted pretty early to get off the mediums onto the hards. Then his second stop sort of coincided with when Leclerc crashed. Just going back into the points from 19th on the grid. That's 3 7th places in 4 races now, and he's actually gone back ahead of Alonso in the championship. Highs and lows, isn't it? Like after qualifying, I was ready to sit here and rip into him, and then he goes and like pulls off a good drive and gets some points. Like he still shouldn't be crashing twice in 2 days. And I mean, imagine the poor mechanics who just put his car back together after a crash on Friday, and then he bins it again in quali. But there we go. Such is the enigma of Lance Stroll.
Yes, that is all I will say on the matter.
Awards.
Yes.
Driver of the day.
I mean, it's obvious who we're going for.
It's Hadjar. It has to be.
I'm a little bit confused and disappointed with the general vote. It's probably more of a fantasy thing, maybe, but Leclerc was somehow third on the real vote. And I was like, how on earth are people like Albon and Ollie Behrman getting overlooked for like really solid drives on further back? I mean, Ollie Behrman started in the pit lane, remember? And got 6th with the penalties and stuff like that. Like, and Albon started from like 15th, did he not? So he's climbed about 10 places as well. Like, like legitimately good drives, and old Leclerc gets 3rd place in the driver of the day vote because someone bashed into him. What's that all about? Yeah, they just felt sorry for it. Maybe that's what Leclerc was doing on that phone by the side of the circuit for so long. Everyone thought he was trying to watch and listen to the race, but what he was actually doing is logging on to the F1 website with many, many VPNs. This is not a sponsored segment. I'm not going to try and sell you a VPN. But he was logging on with many, many VPNs and just voting for himself. It was like, I'm going to win something today.
Yeah, I got to get something.
Yeah, that was funny, by the way, can I just point out, is Leclerc
it's hilarious.
Watching and listening to the race from some random person's phone.
The worst part, the best/worst part is when the drone went and hovered near to him to show him sat on his lonely sand dune and then flew up to show the other car still racing past him. Him and Norris both just got stranded on sand dunes.
Yeah, and just like just stayed there for the whole way. I mean, the memes of everyone having a picnic on the sand dunes is quite funny.
Oh,
I must admit.
hilarious.
And the ones that are getting like very elaborate with lots of things from lots of different years of Formula One, including Mika Hakkinen having a little bit of a cry.
Yeah.
That's on there too. When was that? That was
99, I think that was, or 2000 maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2000. It was just the year he lost. Anyway, that would get really sidetracked now. So driver of the day, Hajar.
Move of the day.
I mean, the
Norris doing Verstappen around the outside was very good.
That was a good one. I mean, Verstappen's start and also being able to save it, I think, was my candidate overall. Like, getting the start he did, sort of slam dunking Norris into taking second place off him, and then somehow saving it.
Yeah.
Round 2 or 3, whichever way around it is. Yeah, 2 into 3. I think, that was it for me, is that whole little opening sequence. But yeah, Norris's one round the outside was pretty good. I'm always like a little hesitant in those scenarios because we know how much better that car is. Like there's definitely an element of that being the car, and Verstappen sort of not letting it happen, but knowing that he can't fight it too hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, despite the controversy around it, I mentioned it earlier, like, if Leclerc is officially inbound, I think that's a candidate for move of the day.
Apparently that's legal.
And if it is apparently legal and it's just a racing incident, it was a racing incident. How is nobody... I mean, surely somebody's made that joke already, if that's the outcome. Yeah, I'm not the first to be doing that. But yeah, I think Verstappen's start for me, out of everything.
Yeah, I can go with you on that. And then the final award.
Oh yeah, I need to press the button for that, don't I?
Honestly, what the f*** are we doing here?
We're a bit spoiled for choice here, aren't we?
Shall I give you my 2 random ones that won't win? I just want to mention them. So people watching might have seen my random excitement when Chris started talking about the drone filming Leclerc. It was because I remembered a WTF that I was thinking of during the race weekend, that when it came to recording, it completely escaped my mind. And it's that somebody in that media team, or whatever you want to call them, like the broadcast team, should I say, mute the audio from the drone, please. It's an amazing shot. I love these overhead shots of the cars going, especially like the one on the pit exit. You've got like a car doing racing pace while a car's doing pit lane pace. Really cool shots. What I don't need throughout every shot that you show me from the drone is me.
Yeah,
just mute it, please. Just mute it. Like, amazing camera angles, annoying noise. Please mute it.
It's almost like they want you to know they've got a drone, so they're leaving the sound on.
It's like, guys, just mute it, please. And then the other one is a little bit of a obvious one, maybe from qualifying. And it's honestly, what the fox are we doing here?
Yeah, Track Fox.
Track Fox. He's made it into some of those sand dune memes, by the way.
He has, yes.
Well, not the exact fox, but a fox has.
Here's one.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making trophies that break that easily. Like, I mean, it's weird enough already that they were just blatantly ripping off the Hungaroring trophies. Yeah. Don't make a trophy. Like, we've had the Lego ones this season. We've had the Hungaroring ones breaking in the past. Now they've decided to make a porcelain one here as well. Like, poor old Hajar finally gets his first podium. Well, I'll say finally. He gets his first podium, and then the trophy immediately breaks. He didn't even, like, knock it over.
He was just putting it down. Yeah, I mean, most people have probably seen it by now, but if you haven't, essentially, during the team photo in the pit lane that you always see for, like, winners and podium positions and stuff, he's literally holding it, like, by the stem, if you want to call it that, and goes to put it down on the floor, and the stem literally just breaks clean in half in his hand, and he's like, what? So, yeah, I mean, that's a good candidate, to be fair. Fragile trophies again.
The rest we've already kind of talked about. Leclerc and Norris being stranded on the sand dunes is very funny. The corner cut that wasn't for Leclerc, and obviously Sainz his penalty, which we don't need to rant about any more than we have.
Yeah, don't start me on that again.
Which I kind of want to give it to that because it's so bad, but also the broken trophy again is quite funny. So maybe we should do that instead.
Broken trophy?
For a bit of levity. Broken trophy.
Go for it.
Right. Predictions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be as quick as I can here because we're like about an hour.
I was about to take long.
An hour into this episode, and we've still got a Monza preview to do. Jeez. Right, yeah, hours don't take long. We scored nothing. I'm not even going into any more detail than that. Two people were very, very close to a perfect weekend this weekend. You got Jacob Broman and Nicky Flanagan, both on 4 out of 5. Jacob sadly had Liam Lawson as first DNF instead of Lewis Hamilton, and Nicky had 18 finishes instead of 17. So Nicky probably ruining that Oscar Piastri retirement more than most.
Who?
Sorry, Lando Norris retirement more than most. Yeah. It was an orange car. I've lost track at this point. So, yeah, very, very close there. In terms of at the top, Michael Labaldus is still our... Oh, no, that's a new leader in Michael Labaldus. I apologise, because Gordon Barham was our leader. So Michael's on 21 points. Gordon is on 20 points. And also tied for second is, wow, Lockman 4000. What a name. On 20 points. So that's that. In terms of the Fantasy League, Alfa Varen is our winner this week with 272 points. And Wine Racing is still our leader overall with 3,511. Then over in GridRival, Hockey Sag is our winner with 1,113 points. But Sazo123 still leads the standings there with 14,330. If you would like to get involved in any of that, head to backofthegrid.com. Links for all the different fantasy leagues we do, and obviously the predictions league. If you haven't entered before, it's always worth doing, because if you do get a 5 out of 5 perfect weekend, you will win a prize. I'm going to quickly just segue straight to Monza, because we're going to have to talk about story. Oh, go on.
Can I just have one more very brief moment?
No.
This is the first and last time this will ever happen. But I have won a fantasy league. I have won our IndyCar league, despite knowing almost nothing about it.
Well done, Chris. I am jealous of you, because I had a terrible start to that, and I think I eventually came 4th.
It's a tough one to come back on, being such a short comparative season as well.
It was good though. I enjoyed it for the first season of IndyCar. Definitely got me a bit more invested in IndyCar this season than I usually am. Like, I usually follow it just to see the drivers that I know from other series and how they're getting on and stuff like that. Watch the Indy 500 and that's about it. But yeah, definitely paid a lot closer attention this year to try and catch you up.
Should we dive straight into predictions for Monza just to move things along?
Why not?
Let's force ourselves to make some decisions and not delay any further.
Fastest in Q3? Go for it, Chris. You seem eager and ready.
In the interest of making the championship more interesting and the fact that I'm almost always wrong, I'm going to say Piastri.
Okay. Sorry, I was replying to Roxy in the chat, who was commiserating herself for finishing behind me in the IndyCar League, and I was like, yeah, I'm a winner, you're a loser. Anyway, Piastri for Chris. Fastest in Q3, straight line. Do you know what? They always build a car for it. It's been pretty good in straight lines this year, which is probably because they built it for Monza. They're going to whack little to no downforce on it. I'm going to say Leclerc. Why not? Fastest in Q3.
I'd love you to be right.
I will be
right. Is he
right.
going to win?
Nah, is he heck. In the interest of keeping the championship alive, I'm going to say Norris. It probably won't be, but I'm going big picture, try and keep the championship alive.
I'm going to say Piastri again, because I'm almost always wrong. So
double Piastri. First DNF. Any thoughts on this one?
First DNF, I'm going to go with... This feels like somewhere a rookie's going to do, dip a wheel on the grass or something. So I'll say Lawson. I feel like I say Lawson quite a lot, but I'm saying Lawson again.
Okay. I'm going to be a horrible, cruel man and say Kimi Antonelli.
At least neither said Hadjar.
True. Yeah, I'm not going here to do it. It's home race.
No.
Home race. And to be fair, am I right in saying that Kimi Antonelli's absolutely terrible run of results started at Imola?
That's quite possibly, actually. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I very quickly need to just sense check this logic I'm going for. So once the Italian phase of the season is over, he can return to other than the podium, and his solitary point in Hungaroring. That is
not scored since similar.
He's retired 4 times since similar, and he might as well have retired from the Dutch Grand Prix. It was only probably so he had to serve his penalty in that race rather than it carrying over for any reason. So yeah, I'm just adding to his misery. Anyway, number of finishers. I mean, yes, it's a bit of a power-heavy track and a brake-heavy track, but generally, people intentionally save like new components from an engine unit perspective. I'm going to go pretty high here and say 18.
That's exactly what I was thinking, so I will agree with you.
Okay. And then random driver. I've already seen this and taunted Chris with with the fact that I've seen it and it's difficult. It's a difficult one on many levels. It is Sir Lewis Hamilton.
So we know he's going into this race with a 5-place penalty as well.
Yeah.
Which we didn't talk about, but the short version is because of the last corner at Zandvoort, on the laps to the grid, they put it under a permanent double wave yellows and they decided he didn't slow down enough through that corner and into the pit lane. So they gave him a 5-place penalty for Monza. I think probably a fair penalty for a safety thing like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think safety standards like that have to be upheld. And it's not like they won't have discussed that in the driver's briefing. And I'm pretty sure they've done it previous years before now. It's not like it's just a new thing this season, to my knowledge. But even if it was, they will have discussed it in drivers' briefings, and the yellow flags are there to be adhered to. So,
yeah,
it sounds harsh, but those are the kind of rules that I do want executing in just pure letter of the law fashion with no deviation or context, because they're safety rules.
But Sir Lewis Carl Hamilton.
Come on, I gave you enough stalling time with all that garbage about how yellow flags are important.
He's going to finish 5th.
Ooh, so despite the penalty, he's coming back, is he? Does that mean you think he's qualifying high anyway, with Leclerc being up there? Do you think he's like second row of the grid or something? I don't
think that. I think he's probably going to start like 10th or something and make up some places. Because I think Red Bull are going to struggle a bit here. And I think Mercedes are probably going to struggle a bit as well.
Mm. So you're thinking second fastest car for Ferrari.
That's where I'm at, yeah.
Can do enough on the straights
But with his penalty, he might not be able to get by everybody to finish 3rd or 4th. So
I wanted to be way less optimistic than you and say 7th, but you sort of like convinced me to go the other way. I'm going to stick with my gut and say 7th, because if I change my mind at the last moment and then he finishes 7th, I'll never forgive myself. Right. That is our predictions for the Monza Grand Prix. As I said before, if you want to get involved, head to backofthegrid.com, submit yours. You have until qualifying starts on Saturday when everything gets locked down, and always worth doing because there's a prize for 5 out of 5. That is that. I will move us swiftly onto inbox.
Keep it saying now. Stay out. Box. Hey, man.
First this week from Sarah, who says, "Hey guys, what do we make of reports about Colton Herta going from Indy to Formula 2 for 2026? If he's only after the super license points, why not choose to just do FP1 sessions?" Yeah, so this is kind of being reported today that we might be getting that announcement soon, that he's going to be leaving Indy for Formula 2, which is a really strange thing for a driver to do.
It is probably the most lucrative way to earn points, though, isn't it, for a driver like him? He's not going to win many in any other series, and I think it'd take a lot of FP1 sessions to be able to win enough points. I can't remember how the points work for FP1 sessions, if I'm totally honest. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I forget specifically.
But I think it'd be a little bit difficult for him to
But I
win
mean,
that way.
he's not raced in Europe since 2016, and very few of those races were on Formula One circuits. So I think if he's going to do this, I think going to something like Formula 2, where he's going to be embedded in the paddock, he's going to be learning the tracks, is probably the way to do it. If I'm completely honest, I don't see him going there and like contending for a championship. Honestly, like,
Yeah,
I think it's going to be much harder than a lot of people are maybe thinking it will be. Like, I personally, I would say I already don't rate Colton Herta quite as highly as a lot of other people seem to.
wow.
But I also think it's true of almost everybody on the IndyCar grid wouldn't just drop into F2 and be instantly successful. And that's not a slight on IndyCar. That's just that they're very different series in very different cars on very different tracks. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very strange one if this does come to pass.
I mean, it's always been thrown around for years, I guess, that Colton might end up in Formula One at some point. Same as Pato O'Ward. Those two names have been thrown around for quite a while. So I wouldn't be surprised and shocked if it happened. But whilst I would have thought that maybe it was something to do possibly later down the line. But I guess he's looking at it as, if he's 25 years old now and he gives it a pop and it works, it's great. If it doesn't, he's still got plenty of his career to come back to IndyCar, or I don't know, he might want to go do WEC or something like that if Formula One doesn't work out. Like, we've seen a number of drivers who are interested in more than just open wheel single-seater racing. So maybe he wants to have a bash at getting to what is considered like the premier version of open wheel single-seater racing, and then maybe go try something completely different. Who knows?
And he could probably, I mean, it'll depend on the F2 calendar, but he could probably even still go back and do the Indy 500 if he wanted to.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised with that, because Monaco is a different weekend now, isn't it? It doesn't clash anymore. Used to.
No, it's the same day as the Canadian Grand Prix now, which generally isn't
there isn't usually a
series.
F2 race at Canada, from what I remember.
Generally
speaking,
not, no.
So yeah, it depends on the calendar, but not impossible. And I think that I can see either just being a whole speculation thing that just turns out to be nothing, and I can also see it happening. I'm like very nonchalant about it, if that's the right word.
Yeah, I've just double checked the F2 calendar, and they're not racing that weekend.
There you go. So it could
do
do the Indy 500. Anyway, Adam Busby says, "Hey man, do you think the stewards' penalties need more clarity? Sainz's penalty felt like a harsh and silly call." Well said, Adam. He also left fans like me confused why it was given. Well, we're confused too, Adam, as you may have already noticed from this episode.
The thing is, a lot of the time these days, the stewards do give pretty good detailed explanations of where they make the decisions. I don't always agree with them, but they're normally pretty good with it. On this occasion, I mean, I basically read to you that explanation. It was just like, car was not alongside enough at point and collisions, so fault. Like there's it was really, really lacking. So generally, I think they do an all right job. On this occasion, they did a terrible job.
Yeah. And I don't know Adam's exact situation. I don't know if the comment about it's confused me as to why it was given is more of a I'm newer and it doesn't make sense to me, or just I've been watching it as long as anybody else and it doesn't make sense to even me. I don't know the context of that, but if somebody newer is looking at that and thinking, well, Lawson's the one that's losing control of his car and hitting somebody else, why is he not getting the penalty? Like, at that point, how are the stewards not explaining it with enough information to that newer fans who don't quite know how the rules work can see that? Like, that's don't get me started again.
Next question from Valles. I feel like I say this name differently every time. I really need to get confirmation of how to pronounce this. Who talking about Cadillac?
Jose,
brand new
isn't it?
team.
Jose.
Yeah. Brand new team composed of the two best number 2 drivers of the grid we've witnessed in a long time. In the battle of the number 2 drivers, who do we think will remain in his usual comfortable number 2 slot, and who will lead the team?
I know who.
It's a really good question.
I know who Chris is going to say will lead the team, so I'll just politely agree.
I do think it will be Bottas by virtue of him being a better qualifier. I think he's probably going to finish racing better positions by virtue of qualifying, but as we said last week, I think they're going to be bringing up the rear more often than not. I think we're not going to be seeing many points from Cadillac next year, that's for sure.
Wow. Scathing review of Cadillac's chances from Chris Evans.
It's just the way it is, I think.
You heard it here first. And then Luke, this one was sent during qualifying, I think, so a little premature maybe, but Luke says, hey man, given how closely a championship is looking, awkward, how do you think the old rule for a point awarded for fastest lap could be influencing the race in this season if it still existed? I did a very, very quick spot check on this, and as it stands, I believe Norris has 5 fastest point, well, would have had 5 fastest lap points. Oscar would have had 5, and there's a couple that have gone out to people like Max, and Russell's picked up a couple. Antonelli had 1 in Spa, but he was out of the point, so it wouldn't have counted. And I can't think if there was anyone else. I think that's it. But it's difficult. Like, on that face value, it would have made no difference because Norris would have had 5 extra points, Piastri would have had 5 extra points, we'd be in the same position there. However, there is an element of, would people be behaving differently with strategy? Like, if you've got a scenario where Oscar and Lando are 2 minutes down the road, like a lap ahead of everyone, 2 minutes down the road, same difference. But yeah, if they're in that position where they've got that much of a gap and one of them's in second, the other's in first, what's stopping the one in second saying, I want to pit for some fresh tyres. Fresh, soft tyres. I mean, but whether the team would honour that or not is another matter, but like, you know, it's a legit strategy. McLaren do generally operate a 2-team setup for the most part. At least it sounds that way from radio messages. Like Will Joseph and I always forget the other engineer's name. I'm sorry to Oscar's engineer because I only ever remember Will Joseph's name for some reason and not Oscar's engineer. But anyway, their comms is very much like the other driver is from another team and is a rival. Like Tom Stallard, thank you. But yeah, Tom and Will, they do very much operate like the driver on the opposite side of the garage is actually from a rival team, which does sort of lead me into thinking, well, if one of them was in second and the other was leading, would they actually let them take the risk of a pit stop for a fastest lap?
The interesting thing as well is like I would want to say more often than not when they finished 1-2 this season, the gap's been like a couple of seconds tops.
Yeah.
So are you going to have that second place driver give up that position to go and get a fastest lap point rather than try and keep on chasing down? Like, yeah.
There is that.
I don't miss the fastest lap points, but like it can add some interesting things like that.
In the more boring races, it adds a little bit of spice towards the end, I guess. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I think it would have made little to no difference. I mean, on the evidence of who has the fastest laps so far, if they stayed the same and got points for them, it would literally make no difference. So there you go. That's it for Inbox.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week to discuss the Italian Grand Prix. Until then, if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us in all of the usual places. You can join our Discord community at patreon.com/backofthegrid or backofthegrid.com, and you can see all of the fantasy league stuff and what position you're in and all of that jazz. So yeah, thanks as ever for joining us. We will be back next week. So until then, goodbye.
Bye, everyone.